There we go. Program your project. You select a consultant. You develop your federal aid agreement with the DOT. You go through your environmental review. Acquire any other permits that you might need, 404, Corps of Engineers permits. Work on your preliminary design. As you're doing that, you coordinate with the railroads and utilities on your project. Go through your final design and acquisition and right-of-way acquisition process. And then finally, at that point, you turn the project over to the Office of Contracts, or after the District Local Systems Engineer has signed off on the project. It goes into the Office of Contracts and gets entered into our DOT letting process. And we have Ed Casper, the Assistant Director for Office of Contracts, here to walk you through that process.
Okay, all right. Cool. Live and in person. All right, here we go. What are we going to talk about today? The letting schedule. So we'll talk about some of the milestones and the timeline and things that need to happen in progression in order to get your projects out the door. We will talk about the contract award process, and what that involves is activities and things that you need to do after we've collected bids and sent you a contract to consider for award. Talk about the contract documents, and there what we're talking about is plan preparation and the things that you need to send to us to make sure that it sails through smoothly. Contract time, how much time we're going to allow the contractor to complete the work, thought process that goes into that, and how DOT sets that up. Talk a little bit about writing addendums. Hopefully we won't have to, but in the odd chance that we do, we'll talk about that. And then federal regulations as well, of course. So the letting schedule. The first Tuesday, 2 months before letting, is turned into our office. I think you turn them into the local systems district offices a little before that, but that's when they come into the Office of Contracts. Plan sets and a complete package. So things you need to know about that. TPMS. You should have all of your bid items and project-related information accurate into TPMS. Location, route, all of those things get loaded in an automated process from TPMS into the proposal and into the contract, all of which are contract documents. So whatever you call it in TPMS, that's the way it's coming out the door at the other end. So make sure that that is accurate well before plan turn-in. Programmed amount, or the programmed project is equal to the design project. I think you've probably had people talk to you about this earlier today, but if you program from A to B, you better design from A to B. If you program from A to B and you design from A to C, you're going to have a problem, or you can. So just make sure that what your design and your project plan, when you submit it, matches what's programmed. And a complete plan. It should be done when you turn it into us. Don't turn in stuff with missing tabs, or we'll figure out these quantities later, that kind of thing, missing sheets. When it comes in, it should be complete. And believe it or not, that is not always the case. If you have special provisions, something that's not covered in our standard specifications, construction, materials, method of measurement, basis of payment, those sorts of things, special provisions should be turned in that first Tuesday, 2 months prior. Electronic bid items, same as the TPMS information. Bid items, the department has a bid item application that's out there on the web for you to enter your bid items, and that loads into our system. So whatever you put in there for bid items should match your plan, for one, and that's what's going on in the proposal. So make sure that your bid items are accurate and they match your plan, because that's what's going in the contract documents. Project development certification should be complete, signed, have all your right-of-way, those sorts of things. Any special letting considerations? Oftentimes, local agencies will desire a special contract time. We need to get it done by a certain date for this or that. And if you want that, make sure that you request that in a cover letter. and you should justify it too. Sometimes we'll have, well, we need to get this road done because it's a school route. Okay, find me a road in Iowa that's not a school route, you know. We need to have this road done because of harvest, okay. So if you're sort of that general or that generic, we're probably going to question that. Now, if you're building the road in front of the school and every school bus has to go by it, that's a different story, and that's the kind of justification we're looking for. Public interest findings, so if there's something that proprietary items, that sort of a thing, if you're missing some right-of-way, you have condemnations, we'll need a public interest finding to justify and to document that. So 2 weeks later, the third Tuesday, 2 months before letting, so we're 2 weeks after turn-in, this is the end of the time when designers can request plan changes. So up till then, if you find something in error or a little tweak that you need to make to the plans, you can request to have those changes or submit those changes to us. Once we get past that 2 week time period, our staff needs kind of a static and a complete document that we can work stuff up and do our thing, and it's not changing. So we ask that all change requests be submitted in that 2 week period. That's when we're working up our proposal, contract periods, cost estimate, etc. Okay, so now we've gone, we're into the next month. The first Tuesday, 1 month before the letting, here's where we're finalizing our letting documents. We've sent out a contract period report that goes to all the counties, and the cities, I think, has to be forwarded from the local offices. At that point, what we're looking at for contract period is not a complete overhaul, but if you say, you know, geez, we'd like 5 days more or 5 days less or minor tweaks, that kind of a thing. If you have something really special on a contract period, better be getting that in your cover letter. That's when we're starting to submit authorization requests to FHWA and when we hold our DB goal setting meeting. We'll talk a little bit about that as we move on here. So the third Tuesday, 1 month before letting, is advertising. That's also letting day. Our lettings are the third Tuesday, our regular lettings are the third Tuesday of the month. Every month. So advertising day in June we're advertising for the July letting on the same date that we're collecting bids in June. We have to have authorization, FHWA authorization complete at that point. We cannot advertise it without that. That's the day when we make contract documents available to industry. So your plans, proposal, SPs, DSs, all that is out on our website. And any changes that we're making now have to be done by addendum. And I would highly encourage you to go to that website. I hope you're familiar with that, our location on the DOT website, to look at the plans and particularly the proposal that we've put out there to make sure it says what you want it to say. Did we get the contract time that you wanted? We have all the specs, that kind of a thing. So I would strongly encourage you right after advertisement to go out there and take a look at that. You don't have to be a subscriber or anything like that. It's on the DOT website, and you can just go take a look. And after that point, all questions are on Bid Express. So if a contractor happens to call you up for a project that's advertised and says, hey, what do you mean by this? Or hey, how do we do this? Or what about that? Tell them, nope, thanks, sorry. Go to the Bid Express website and submit your questions there. Do that to make sure that we have kind of a level playing field, that all the contractors get the same answer, and also that if any answer we might give might need to have to be an addendum. So for changing the contract documents somehow, that would have to be an addendum. So best bet is if somebody's contacted you on something that's been advertised, say, sorry, no thanks, go to Bid Express. Okay, FHWA authorization. The estimate needs to be within 30% of the programmed amount. If it's not, you're going to have to revise the program, and that can cause some real problems if you're in an MPO and they have a public advertising time or some comment period before they can revise the STIP. You're probably going to face a delay. So you want to look at your estimate and compare it to the program amount before you submit the plans. And since I just went through this yesterday, I'm pretty sure that local systems guidance for you folks is that you should be within 15% just to make sure we have a little factor of safety. Because we do prepare our own estimate as well. But make sure that your estimate is within that 30, and really local systems guidance is within 15%. Make sure the design is consistent with the program. Talked about that a little bit before. You're going to have to report to us the route and mile points. So we need to tell FHWA what route we're building this project on, what the beginning point is, what the end point is. Make sure your project that's designed fits into those termini, into those brackets that's programmed. Because if you don't, and that comes up later, there is a possibility that it's an incurable error for which you might lose your federal aid. So don't muggy that one up. All right, first Tuesday of the month of letting. So plans are out on the street. Contractors have been looking at them for a couple of weeks now. Here's where all your condemnations have to be held. If you have agreements or other outstanding issues like that, we should have those cleared up by now. The reason for that is we don't want to withdraw something later in the process because we didn't have all the right-of-way. We like to do that earlier in the process so we're not pulling the rug out from underneath contractors who are trying to bid stuff and do that at the last minute. So we need to have everything clear here so that everybody's going ahead to letting. Third Tuesday of the month is letting day, and again, advertising for the next letting. Our bid deadline for our regular lettings is at 10 o'clock, and then by 10:30 we are doing our public opening and reading. But for you folks, nobody has to drive in or go anywhere anymore. You can go to Bid Express to see the apparent as-read bids. Now, I will caution you that that is a number, and just that. We haven't checked anything. We haven't looked at anything. We haven't, that's an as-read total. So don't run too hard with that one, I guess is what I'm saying. But you don't need to be a subscriber. Again, that's available there for anybody. And by 10:30, generally, we're starting to post those and get them out. All right, so the award process. We have now collected bids, and we've identified a low bidder, and what happens next. So DOT determines the lowest responsive bid. FHWA requirement is that contract is awarded to the responsible bidder who submits the lowest responsive bid. I've always been taught that bidders are responsible, meaning that they have the equipment and the knowledge and the expertise and the skill to complete the project, and bids are responsive, meaning I've filled in everything I'm supposed to do. I've given you a proposal guarantee, a bid bond, have a unit price for everything. So the department determines who